Hi, welcome out to Unscheduled, the podcast about anything at any time. I'm your host, Zach, along with my co host.
That's me, Javi.
And, today is just another day. Got another episode we're recording, and, it's just going to be a chill day. How are you, Javi?
Doing pretty well. Excited to see. Actually, there's going to be a live match today, actually, for the German Soccer League. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Right, right. I heard about how Germany brought back just the teams though. They're the first league, I believe, to bring back just the teams, at least in Europe.
Yeah, they're actually just doing just the teams. No fans are allowed. Just the teams, and obviously the technical staff and stuff like that. But no fans at all.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not not to get into the whole weirdly somehow merging debate about this, but I'm just I'm not 100% fan of the idea, but you know what? At least they're not allowing fans in right now and people can watch it on TV.
Yeah, I mean, as long as they're being smart about it and they're taking the right protocols, maybe it could work. Obviously, if there's like no recorded cases and it turns out to be a success, I mean that'd be huge. And obviously, as a soccer fan myself, who like clamors over this stuff, like Cookie Monster clamors over cookies. Um, I'd love to see the leagues come back, but if it's not safe and they do there does start to be an upsurge of cases, then obviously I want it to be shut down. Because no sport or any large gathering is worth it for
Right,
mixing people.
right. I get it. And we're not going to get into that cuz that's not what this is about. But speak somewhere along the same line of thought though. Did you see that I think it was South Korea, one of their teams was in trouble or in a whole quote unquote controversy. If it's really a controversy, it's one of the funniest controversies I've ever seen about how
Are you talking?
no, go
Uh,
ahead.
are you, yeah, are you talking about the team that had the adult models, like blow up dolls in the stands?
Yeah. Let's just they were sex shop mannequins to what I remember hearing or reading.
Yeah,
And to me, that was just the funniest thing ever. Like whatever you have to do to get in your audience or quote unquote audience, or feel like the stadium's full, by all means. Like I had no problem with it whatsoever. Like I wouldn't even have known those were like sex shop mannequins or dolls or whatever until this news story came out. So I actually was thinking more along the lines wait a minute. Either someone really investigated this stuff or someone recognized it and then thought it was a good idea.
yeah, no, I thought it was pretty funny too reading it because I was thinking to myself because there are actually teams that are using they're using like life size cutouts of their fans. Like you can pay like money for the team to actually have a cutout of you in the stands, and and if you're a season ticket holder, I think they'd actually put you in the seat that you pay for actually. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah,
But it
that's
was
pretty cool.
Yeah, but it was really funny to hear the sex doll thing, or the sex shop mannequin thing, because honestly, like I'm putting it down to two things. Either they were like so unaware and they thought to themselves, yeah, we can definitely use this stuff, or they were doing it specifically for the point of drawing in more attention. Because I feel like the South Korean league, I believe, is one of the only leagues that has some kind of some kind of recognizable brand that's going on right now, apart from the German Bundesliga. Um, so I feel like they're trying to kind of capitalize on that a little bit. I can't say for sure, but I
Yeah,
feel like
yeah.
that might be part of it. Because like they could just be like, oh yeah, we didn't know about this, and they'll get like a slap on the wrist because it's not like a terrible thing. It's just like you have to kind of go out of your way to recognize those things. But honestly, I kind of feel like this was a bit of an engineered move. You know what I mean?
No, I get it. I honestly get it because it's I also feel like it was just a case of fucks not given at all because it's so what if they are? Like you're not really going to get in trouble. Obviously no, though they did come out with an official apology, which to me I was like, "Really? Does that really need an official apology? Is that anything worth apologizing over? Like no one's there in the stands except the players and no one's really seeing this stuff. Like you have to actively know what these things are." And so I was going through my head and I was just do did they leak this info, kind of to your point about getting making it a PR stunt and everything, or did one of the journalists and or like people who was covering the match instantly recognize it? Because if they did, imagine you being that journalist. How do you bring that up to your boss or publisher or whatever on like, hey, I think this Korean team is using sex dolls as a stand-in for fans? Like, what's the thought process behind that? Like, are you embarrassed? Are you proud of this? Are you nonchalant? Like, what do you do about that? And then you, as an editor or publisher, how do you respond to that too?
Yeah, for me, it's kind of like the first person who like discovered you could get milk by uttering a cow. You just like you wonder like, how do I explain to people that you have to like go through this process to get like milk? It's like, I mean, like yeah, like to your point, like there's like a whole like set of series of like processes and like like hoops and ladders just to get like a story published. So like for the person who found out about that and for them to just go up to their editor and say, hey, I think this team is using sex dolls as stand-ins for fans, and then also to make that frame that in a way that's like newsworthy, like to kind of to your point, that's a lot of circumstances that you have to go through. And honestly, I applaud the team actually, because like if it is if it was for the purpose of generating interest in not just in the league but also specifically to that club, it's a great move, honestly, because you know what? Some people will, they'll check it out and maybe they'll like look for, those mannequins and they'll be like, you know what? This is my favorite team now.
Yeah, no,
So
I'm like I said, I'm not kind of 100% behind them on this. Like, I don't really see it's like a weird, in a weird way to put it. It's like a victimless crime. Like there's no one really hurt or involved, and even if they did do it, it's like, it's kind of a state of like there's no bad PR. It was honestly, it was just pretty funny to me, and here we are like actually talking about it even like a week or two after the fact I think this story got released. But to be a fly on the wall of when like the journalist brought it up to the editor, that would, or publisher or whatever, like I would love to have been a fly on the wall there just listening to that. Because could you imagine, sir, I think that those sex mannequins in the stands there, and then it's just you hear record scratch, and then it's the publisher or manager or whatever is looking at the guy and he's like, why do you know that? Like, I feel like that opens up a whole new revenue of questions there.
yeah, I mean, like I remember there was a story. I think I might be wrong about this. I think it was the Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, Georgia, where the adult website Pornhub wanted to actually buy the naming rights to their stadium. And it was the funniest thing because like obviously the whole gist of the site is in the name, but like you kind of have to go out of your way to like know what some of that stuff is. So it's like, I mean, it's we're kind
I
of getting into like a weird space of like naming rights and the interconnectedness of like people's personal interests and like how they get involved in sports. I don't know. It's kind of weird for me.
Oh my god, I love that so much that like I would have loved to have just seen like, could you imagine what that was called? Like Pornhub Arena, or like some alternative name like Adult Entertainment Stadium or something like that. It would have been so funny to see that. And I'm assuming obviously that didn't go through.
Uh, like no chance in hell did it go through because like I mean I mean, even if said site actually wanted to, I'm assuming they have the money for it, but like you have to consider the fact that you know, especially like in leagues like the NFL and MLS, where they're catered towards more of like a family-oriented sort of audience. There's no way they're gonna, let that kind of stuff be exposed to the general public. So yeah, that definitely wouldn't go through. But like I said, kind of like the mannequin thing, these are the kinds of things that are typically like made as a ploy to make really generate more interactions more than anything.
Yeah, yeah. No, seriously, that's still a good PR stunt, really, in my opinion. Like that is that is something like I never would have expected, honestly, from anyone. And I'll give it to them. That's kind of a genius move. It's like one of those scenarios of so crazy it might actually work, and that's kind of where it's at. But going back along the lines of something you actually mentioned, so you were talking about the whole first guy to drink milk and stuff like that. I was actually about to bust out laughing at that because I've been listening to a lot of podcasts lately, and I think I mentioned this at some point earlier, maybe in the pilot. But I've been listening to this podcast called Good Morning from Hell, and it's actually a really funny podcast because it's about a guy named Chris who dies, and his eternal punishment is to interview everyone in hell along and be best friends with Satan's little brother named Clayton. And it's a whole really funny podcast overall, but it reminded me of an episode where they actually interview the guy who's the first guy to drink milk from a cow. And it's just like, if you can go and find that episode, it's on Spotify and other places. It's also on the Rooster Teeth website because it's one of their podcasts. It's just really funny overall, though. And I'm a huge RT fan. But I started listening to it because I was bored one day, and I could not stop listening to them and how funny they were because it's such a it's not scripted at all. And if it is scripted by any means, it's way more scripted than I could than they've done really good job on the script. But no, for the most part, it's unscripted and has a lot of impromptu, and it's just very funny to listen to. So I recommend it. Go check it out. Good Morning from Hell. Not a sponsor.
Jeez, I wish we could sponsored by other podcasts. Could you imagine? Oh my god! But no, that's honestly sounds really hilarious. Honestly, the premise sounds kind of interesting. What kinds of people do they interview? Like you were saying.
So it's pretty funny. They interviewed the first guy to ever drink milk. They've also interviewed a couple other people, which is pretty funny. They've interviewed Jack the Ripper, Bloody Mary. They did some possessed or cursed dolls, I believe is what they were called. They also have done. Let me see. The Wright brothers. They did that. That's like one of my favorite episodes. Is the Wright brothers. There's also they did Guy Fieri. That was another one. Chef Cookie Monster is another one. Let's see. They interviewed Stalin. Let me see what else. They have a bunch, and I've listened to a bunch that I can't even keep track anymore. But they're just so funny, and I recommend looking them up on Spotify if you don't want to go to the RT site. But and they're about good 30 to 40-minute podcasts, but it's just so funny listening to them and how much the comedy goes along. They also did Athena at one point from Greek mythology, and it's like I said, there's so many episodes and they're so funny.
Honestly, I might have to check that out. I mean, hopefully they interview the guy who decided that school desks should be attached to seats because that shit sucked in high school.
Honestly, though, seriously, God, now that you remind me, I forgot how much of a difference it is now in college and how I no longer really have to sit in seats like those.
Yeah, because in most at least the school we go to I went to um most of the time when you go to a conference room or something like that, it's usually or not even a conference room really, well, yeah, it is a conference room, but you're sitting in rolling chairs around a big desk, or or just generally your seat is attached from whatever surface you have to write on. But in high school, you had these awful desks that had these slippery ass surfaces. You couldn't put anything on them without putting down a freaking
Yeah,
mat.
yeah.
And on top of all that, it was connected to the actual desk. So I'm like, really, I can't even control how close I want to actually be to the desk. I
It's
can't.
so uncomfortable, especially when
Yeah,
you're a bigger person.
yeah,
It is just if you're tall or just very big, or even I've seen some guys who are kind of muscular and they also just struggle with those seats,
yeah.
and it throws me off so much. And then when Now in college though, I was like, oh my gosh, we have like some of the lecture halls are some of my favorites to go to because you could sit and you have essentially it's just one giant desk that's obviously meant to sit multiple people, but you have so much leg room, a charger underneath, and then so much space to write your stuff, and it's on a flat surface too. It's not tilted upward or downward, which would bother me so much in high school because they would just tilt them downward, and I'm like, I don't, this does not work. This is not effective for writing or drawing anything or like taking any notes, and it would drive me insane with like I have to keep pushing my stuff back up so it wouldn't slide down.
Yeah, honestly, I think like I'm sure the person who invented those kinds of desks is gonna definitely appear on the series that you mentioned,
Yeah.
because it caused hell for a lot of
Yeah.
people.
Oh, actually their latest episode I'm thinking about it now was yesterday, and they interviewed Hell's best quote unquote sinfluencer, and
Oh God.
as much as I would love to talk about it, it's just better if people go and listen to it because it's like the jokes, the comedy, the energy, it's all on point, and I'm just like, wow, that's some grade A podcasting, really. Like that's the best way to put it. Like I could not stop laughing throughout it.
Oh my God. Yeah, influencers are interesting because, like, I can't really hate on people that, use their clout to, generate income, because honestly, that's what most content creators are effectively doing in a way. Like, yes, they do create like content and they're like actually putting out like, products out into the world, but like they kind of rely on their like influence in order to generate that income as well. Their retention, their ability to attract an audience. And like I can't hate influencers, but there's something about people that use their like clout to specifically, move in towards gaining like sponsorships and stuff like that. That just bothers me, if that makes sense. Like I don't know, yeah, but I'll probably give that episode a listen, to be honest.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, and I get what you mean. Like there are some quote unquote influencers or content creators, whatever people want to call them now. I feel like the name changes every week, but like there are some that I'm very tired of having like thrown in my face. I guess is the best way to put it. Like some I just don't care for, and I'm like, clearly these are not influencers for me. And then others, I see them in like competitions and stuff. And again, I'm not gonna name names because like I'm not, it's just a matter. But like I saw them judging a music competition, and I'm like, I've seen a little bit of your content, and none of it has proven to me why you should be able to judge this. So I don't know. Like it really had me confused, and I'm a little tired of it. But I don't know. Do you hate the word influencer? Because that seems to be a thing amongst like that split amongst, I want to say, quote unquote, the online community. Like some people really seem to like the word, others really despise the word with like all their heart and soul.
Yeah, that's a really interesting kind of like case of semantics, because like you said, influencer, the meaning kind of changes as time goes on, but honestly, it's not so much like that I hate, influencers themselves. Like you said, it's really like the idea behind an influencer. It's really just like a person like using their ability to like attract an audience to like be like seen as such a valuable asset when they're not really doing anything that interesting per se. So I think what I really dislike, like kind of like what you said, I think I don't like the negative connotation that goes with influencer, or at least the negative connotation that it like stirs up in me, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. Like, again, I was just looking at it and I'm like, okay. I mean, I'm not angry about it because to an extent, it really is what it says in the name. They do influence a lot of people. Like, we can bring up a bunch of content creators who like have massive influence in some way, shape, or form. And that honestly, that's what I prefer, content creator, because that's what they're making at the end of the day, content. But I mean, influencer is not really wrong either. So it is what it is.
Yeah.
But yeah. Hopping on another thing though that I was actually looking at, and I've realized, like I said, I've been getting really into podcasts as of late because there's not as much to do right now. But podcasts kind of keep me sane right now. Like there are so many good ones I'm listening to. Um, One of the things though that I actually have also been getting into, or I guess has been fueled more recently, I guess is the best way to say it. And I've talked to you about this before, and I've told a couple other friends of ours about this. Is I've been listening to a lot more Reddit stories. So I've been listening to channels such as r slash dark fluff and slash start, where they all just read a bunch of Reddit stories, and it's so much fun listening to what happens. And it's like, some people say they're like fake stories because it's Reddit and everything, and I'm like some of these are so wild that they can't be fake.
Yeah, I mean, like, honestly, on the internet, there's no good way to tell because, like, you just have to take a person's word for it. But, like, honestly, there are some things that I read and I think to myself, like, this is so compelling, like, there's no way it's fake. But, like, honestly, I don't think it's really a problem if they're fake, if you get what I mean. Like, at the end of the day, like, when you really think about it, like, these things don't really affect us that much. And in that way, we kind of just take them as entertainment anyways. So it's like, honestly, if we're thinking about it that way, like, does it really matter if they're fake? At the end of the day, they're really just providing like sort of like a source of like entertainment for us, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, I get it, and that's why I'm never bothered by them. I just listen to the stories because like clearly for me, some of them I'm like, yes, this is a very real story. Others I'm like, I'm not entirely sure, and even more, I'm just like, this is so crazy it has to be true, and if it's not true, then well done on you for telling such a good story. But I mean, there are so many of them that I've listened to that it's like, I would say 90% of them involve like some form of quote unquote Karen getting justice handed out to her, and like how like she gets her comeuppance and everything, and I love listening to those stories.
Oh my God, the Karen is interesting. It's like a very interesting like sort of archetype of person. I feel I feel like for some reason, so like how there's like this whole thing about like Karen like being like a hateful term now being thrown away around now, right?
Yeah,
Like
I guess you could say that. Yeah.
no, yeah, like but that's coming from like the Karens, that's not coming from people like no one's coming to defend the Karens. It's like the Karens themselves that are saying that, and it's just like that's such a Karen thing to do. like like
No,
like
it's really funny.
yeah. Like, and I mean, like, that's really kind of what the essence is of like a Karen, like, making something out of nothing. Like they're kind of like putting a target on themselves by like kind of like, transforming this like, relatively harmless like term into something that way bigger than it is. But you know what? I mean, that's just something for them to decide. It's not my problem.
Yeah, but I mean, it's just like sometimes I just really love being on social media because things such as Karens will just be proven to me why we call them Karens when we see things on like Twitter and Reddit for me, and it's so funny. Like I don't feel like I'm ever disappointed when I hear a story about them. But yeah, that's just for me. They were really good channels. If you ever are feeling bored or have an afternoon, their videos are usually like 15 to 20 minutes long. Go ahead and take a listen on them because again, I guarantee they will just be such a good listen to.
Yeah. And speaking of Karens, I actually wanted to talk about something actually. Uh, I was thinking back to my years back when I was a youth in college, less than a year ago. Um,
Yeah.
and I was wondering, I never really had like, a bad professor, but like, there were like some professors that were, quote unquote, Karens. So I was wondering, who was your least favorite professor? You don't have to name them. You don't have to like, say their
I mean, I've already told you who my least favorite professor is and like how horrible she was. She was not a Karen by any means, but this woman was just downright manipulative, and we're pretty sure like we never had any solid evidence that we could use otherwise to that she was probably low-key racist and sexist. So
Whoa.
uh but we ended up getting her class shut down, so that's neither here nor there. But I would say that it was pretty good overall. Like I haven't had horrible professors with the exception of her. I've had professors who are very difficult to work with, but she was only like the true horrible professor that I actually hated so much. And I'm not even sure if she's still teaching anymore because of what we've done. But, again, that's neither here nor there. Um, I can also think of some of my favorite professors who were just so chill and able to work with the students more and that they would adapt to the students instead of the students having to adapt to them. So I really appreciated that.
Yeah, I mean, like kind of like you said, like I feel like, especially if in our department, like most of the professors are pretty good, honestly. Like they're not like too hard to work with. They'll actually like sort of like try and work with you. Actually, they won't like try to make you like sort of do anything that they wouldn't do themselves. So I think, yeah, I mean, I'd say, especially with within communications, it's actually pretty reasonable.
Yeah, no, seriously, like it was just something that to me I was like, "Oh, that's like I didn't think they would be like so nice per se. Like I thought they would just be like very laissez-faire about like their students and everything, but no, they actually really cared, which was a new uh very fresh take to have. So like for me it wasn't something I was expecting whatsoever.
True that. I mean, honestly, yeah.
But I did want to talk to you about something, and I talked with you about this with a couple of our friends the other day. But and I say this I almost ironically, being like the age I am and everything. But I felt old, very old the other day. So I was talking with some of my freshman friends, and they were telling me how they stay up till like 4, 5, 6 in the morning, and I was just thinking back to that. I was like, I haven't done that since freshman year. Like, I have not stayed up that late in a long time. And if you asked me to do that right now, I couldn't do it. Like, I could not do it at all because it just takes too much effort and time for me to really like, or I guess not too much effort and time, but just too much effort and energy for me to try and stay up that late. Unless obviously I was doing an assignment or something. But even then, I think the latest I could stay up is 3. I can't do that anymore. And I remember back in freshman year where you and I could actually stay up that late like it was almost nothing. And I'm just like, what happened?
Yeah, I mean, like, same for me actually. Like, I genuinely like remember like times where like I stayed up till like 3 a.m. just like not even doing anything, and I still didn't even feel that tired, which is like the weird thing. Like I went to bed at like I remember like one time specifically, like I looked at the clock and it was like 3 o'clock, and I was like, really? It doesn't feel like it's 3 o'clock, but I knew I had to like get up at like 8, so I was like, yeah, I'll just go to sleep. But yeah, no, it's weird. Like when I was a freshman, staying up until 3 was like, it felt normal actually. Like that felt like the right time to go to sleep. So I was like, and then like as I got on, like towards like junior year, I was like, no, this is not happening anymore. I'm going to bed at like 11 the latest. Like there's no way I can like keep on doing this.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I mean, for me, usually now I knock out around like midnight just to try and get some semblance of sleep. So, for the most part, I've been, as of like in these, like I'd say last 2 days, I've been a lot better about my sleep. But, I just like, to me, I'm just amazed that we could once be able to do that and now we can't do it at all whatsoever. So, it's just a thing, I guess, that happens in life. So, you can't stay up forever. And I don't think I really want to either. Like I really enjoy my sleep. Like I enjoy going to bed, and I'm I wouldn't say I'm a morning person. I'm a person who adapts to the time. So like if I wake up late, I'm okay with like my body adapts and adjusts accordingly. And if I wake up early, my body does the same, adapt and adjust. So I'm not really like a morning person or a night owl. I'm just like I work between both, I would say.
Yeah, no, I'm kind of actually the same way. Like, if I wake up at like, well, if I go to sleep at like, say, like 11, and I need to wake up at like 6 or something, like I'll do it. Like, or like, for bad example, if I go to sleep at like 1 and I have to wake up at like 6, I my body adjusts to it pretty fine. But like, I mean, like the thing is, like, I actually don't feel that tired, but like at least in the morning. But as the day drags on, I realize like, oh yeah. I haven't slept enough. This is not good. But actually, that leads to an interesting thing I was thinking about, and I've actually ranted about this a bit before. But I never take a nap, like especially like when I feel tired, because like I just never feel better. Like, do you actually ever feel better when you take a nap? Like, I just
So
don't.
so for me, and I know I've told you this before, it is very hard for me to nap. Like I don't know why that is or how that is. Like someone we have friends who can just nap basically on the spot during the day, and but for me, I don't know why I just cannot nap. I will try and nap, but I just can't do it. So for that, I'm just like I have to be extremely tired for me to be able to nap during the day or have like extreme boredom for that to happen cuz like for me I just can't nap. So it's very hard for me to fall asleep. And then if I do, I know later at night I'm going to have even more trouble falling asleep. So I'm just like I don't really nap that often. So I can't really say I can relate too much, but I know for me, I'm just my body's kind of nap avoidance.
Yeah, my body is definitely a nap my nap intolerant, I'd say. Like if I have any like allergy, it's definitely to naps because like when I take a nap, like especially like in the
An
middle of the day,
allergy to naps.
like when my body takes a nap, I literally feel like I came out of like World War III and came back from like the future or something.
Oof,
Like
oof. That is rough.
I feel like my body's tattered. I feel like I've been through like Stalingrad. Like it just feels so bad. Like I could never imagine like people who take like naps on a regular basis because like for me that's like my worst nightmare. Like if I had to choose between like, you know, I don't know, like walking like 50 miles and then like having to take a nap afterwards or like walking 100 miles without any rest, I would walk 100 miles without any rest. Like without a
Oof.
second.
Jeez.
Like 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 that's literally how bad it feels for me. But yeah.
Damn that. And then after that, you definitely would want to take a nap or go to sleep
Yeah,
or
exactly.
whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why that's I'm particularly like that way. Maybe I'm just been like taught by my parents and stuff to never go to sleep during the day. But or maybe I just have energy I need to burn. I don't know. Like I guess I just have too much energy when I try to nap. But I don't know. That's just it's a way I am. I guess is the best way to put it. So yeah, for me it's something impressive for like some one of our friends we know who can literally nap anywhere. So I'm not gonna name his name, but he was able to. So I went to King's Dominion once with a couple friends of mine, and it got to a certain point of the day where he takes his siesta, and he's like, hey, I'm just gonna sit here and take my siesta and like nap, and we're like, okay, cool, we're gonna go ride another ride over there. So we wait in line for about an hour for like this ride, then we go on the ride, we come back, this man's is hunched over with a towel over his head and he's out like a light. And it's amazing to me that he can just sleep like that because I can't imagine what his spine is going through hunched over like that, sleeping nonetheless. B, in the middle of King's Dominion, which is like not quiet by any means. And then the fact that he was able to do that for over an hour, because we come back and he's still asleep and we just sit there with him because we're like, okay, we're going to do something else or we're just going to chill here for a little bit. And he doesn't wake up for at least like another half hour. And we're just like, what the hell? How are you able to sleep like that? It was baffling to me.
That honestly is some Uncle Iroh shit. Like that is truly like incredible. Like that's the making of an anime character, I feel. He has the concentration and the fortitude to like not only like, take a sleep, in the middle of an amusement park, but he has like the concentration to just block all that out and just like, concentrate on his sleep. Like that genuinely to me is like some like Zen like, nonsense. Like I could never imagine that. Like
Yeah.
like I think your friend's gonna be like like he has to be based on like an anime character because like that's
Considering that's like the least weird thing he does, or like I don't even want to say weird, just out there thing he does. Like that wouldn't surprise me whatsoever. But speaking of Uncle Iroh, so I remember seeing this, and now like the whole world is being taken by storm by this again. Um, Avatar: The Last Airbender is now on Netflix, the animated version, not the we don't talk about. But yeah, have you rewatched the series or checked it out?
I actually haven't taken the time to watch The Last Airbender because like I don't know if I think I've told you this before, but I have a lot of trouble just sitting down and like watching things. For me personally, like it has to be something like quick, so like maybe like a 10-minute YouTube video, or if I'm like interacting with like something, like it has to be something I'm like directly interacting with. So like or usually something I can like move about at my own pace. So like let's say like reading a book or like playing a video game. Like I generally don't like like watching TV series for like a long time or like watching a movie because like I just feel like I'm doing nothing. But no, I haven't actually. But how about you?
So I haven't gone back and watched it yet because I already remember so much from watching the series. Like, if I went back and watch it, it would probably be, without exaggeration, my ninth or 10th time of going back and rewatching the series. So for me, it's like, it's really cool that it's on Netflix. But I used to watch all the reruns I could on Nicktoons back when it was still on there and on air. And then I would also watch like when they would have the all day or all weekend marathons. I would actively sit down and watch those. And then when they released the specials of like behind the scenes and then the fun info that they would put into some episodes, which was a later addition, which I'm not even sure they show anymore. Um, I also went back and watched those because it was so cool to just build more and more on the universe and figure out how more powers worked and everything. So, honestly, for me, I haven't gone back and watched. Will I go back and watch? Maybe. I'm also very excited, but also worried about the live action adaptation it's getting. But for the most part, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm definitely gonna go and get this. And probably at some point, I probably will go back and watch. Um, but yeah, what's really cool to me though is this whole new generation is getting to experience Avatar from when we were growing up.
Yeah, I totally agree. Actually, I think it's kind of interesting because if I'm not mistaken, like Avatar came out in like 2006, right? Kind of around that
Yeah, I'm pretty
time.
sure I can do a quick search.
Yeah, it came out around that time. So like it was definitely came out like when we were still like really young and like it was definitely like I think that was like probably like the best time for it to come out honestly because it was really one of the best things to like come out on TV and honestly it holds up really well.
Yeah,
Um
yeah, no,
like
it was. No, it came out in 2005 actually.
wow,
Yeah, so
that's
it's already
actually
15 years old, give or take a couple months.
that's incredible. I mean, they're gonna have to like Avatar: The Last Airbender is gonna have to start studying for AP exams honestly. Like that uh,
Oh no, I mean, but still, like the fact that these characters in the series have aged so well speaks volumes of just how good the series itself was. And
yeah.
like all these characters, I still love and I still remember a bunch of their stuff. And like when I still see content made about them, I can't stop consuming it. The only thing I have not been able to get from Avatar: The Last Airbender that I really should go and look online someday and see where I can find it is the online webcomics that they had for after the series because it was actually a thing. And they explain a lot of the stories and stuff of what happens with other characters and other plot lines that weren't fully explained and other things that were also integrated too.
Yeah, honestly, there's so much lore behind like sort of some of the stuff that's in the show. And you mentioned things that, that it's hard for you to like forget. One of the things I'll never forget about Avatar: The Last Airbender was Sokka and specifically his love interest. The guy was a player. Uh, he had, if I'm not mistaken, he had like three girlfriends like throughout the entire show, like during Avatar.
I remember two. I
Yeah,
definitely
so
remember two. If there was a third, then I am completely unaware.
Yeah, so there was the princess, Yue.
Yui,
Um,
yeah, Princess
yeah,
Yui, and then
yeah,
there was Suki, who was the
yeah.
Kyoshi warrior.
And I can't remember anything else, but like that's you know, like most main characters don't even get one love interest. I feel like especially not the main character. Like that's Sokka's a player, man. That's all.
I still remembered him more for his jokes and like the memes that came out of him. Like that's definitely some of the stuff that I remember. But he was a great character overall because he was essentially keeping up with people who were like the best in their craft, and then he was a guy essentially with just a sword and a boomerang. Like that was it. That was all he really had. But I mean, Sokka was just one of the most well flushed out great characters. But I still think my favorite character overall is someone who wasn't even from the main cast, or I guess not really the main cast. In the I don't know where you would put him, but it's definitely Iroh. Iroh would hands down be my favorite character.
I personally thought you were gonna say the Cabbage guy, but Iroh is definitely a good. He's definitely a good pick. I mean, no, Iroh is actually a genuinely great character because like he kind of serves as like a reminder of the horrible sort of travesty that come with like war and stuff like that, and he still manages to like maintain like a very positive and well composed outlook on life, and sort of tries to sort of like he really aids that's another thing about Avatar: The Last Airbender is the fact that Zuko is such a well developed character and has like
Oh
in
yeah,
my
very much
opinion
so.
like he's one of those characters that has like a very well developed and like good redemption arc because I feel like there are some characters in media that obviously like you can tell they're not supposed to be bad guys, like they're supposed to be like fleshed out and you're supposed to like learn to love them as the series go, but they just don't have that level of like sort of authentic sort of development to make you actually feel that sort of love for them. But you kind of get that with Zuko pretty well. Like he is kind of a jerk. He's not like an easy person to get along with. But as the series grows, he becomes more personable and like sorts of actually becomes like an aid to the main gang. So like I mean and that's kind of where General Iroh kind of like comes in. Like he has such wisdom and such a wealth of knowledge that kind of aids that development.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. Like, what I also liked about Iroh is that he wasn't really just a master to Zuko. He was a master to anyone he came in contact with. So, my favorite episode is Tales from Ba Sing Se, or like one of my favorite episodes, which will never not make me cry because of how emotional that is. And then his original voice actor, Mako, who, fun fact, also did the voice of Aku from the original voice of Aku from Samurai Jack. But that episode was just so good and showing like Iroh is clearly never the bad guy. He's a powerful guy, but he's just a wise guy who knows exactly what he wants to do and just really helps anyone. Like the one guy who tries to like I don't even know if I want to say what happens because people are rediscovering the show. So I feel like I'm not going to say too much, but like there is just so much from Iroh that is offered as a character that I'm just like, I don't feel like the series would have ever been the same without him. And then when the thing we don't talk about happened and they just completely ruined him, and I'm just like, really? Really? You had a golden character given to you. I don't understand how you messed him up that bad.
Yeah, to add on to your point about Iroh, being a genuinely strong character, like he's like a really good example of a character of like kind of like there's this kind of like I can't remember exactly when it is. I also don't want to say too much because I feel like people are still rediscovering the show and stuff like that. But Iroh like really just like when the time is right, he really shows the true power of like how like strong of a firebender he really is, and like you under then you remember he's not just Zuko's like uncle. He's a general of the
Yeah,
of the Fire
yeah.
Nation, and like it shows like even though he's not like in his prime anymore, at least I'm assuming not. I feel like that's like kind of like alluded to in the show. He's still very capable of like handling himself against some of the toughest opponents. So it's kind of an interesting way of like kind of like occulting some of his power by hiding him behind like a seemingly like well composed and sort of down to earth person, but like behind them there's like just so much power and passion as well, and I think it's
Yeah.
honestly incredible.
Yeah. No, for me, when I looked at it, it was just like, if you look back originally, Iroh, like how Iroh starts, he's more of a like comedic effect character, but he's so much more than that, and you get to see that even that development out through season one, which to me again is incredible, and then through like season two and beyond, he just gets better and better, and to me, like at sometimes Iroh really steals the show. That's one of the best things to me ever about him. And the fact that the series only ran, or the original series at least, only ran for 3 seasons and is still remembered and loved this much, again, speaks volumes about it.
That honestly shocked me what you said right now, because it didn't feel like 3 seasons. Like to me, that show felt like so much bigger of a part of my life. Like that's honestly incredible. Like I think if you were to ask most people who didn't know the amount of seasons like the Avatar, the Last Airbender, ran for, I think most people would say it like ran for like 5 or 6 seasons, but it honestly wasn't that long of a show, and that's kind of to reinforce your point. It's like that's kind of a testament to like how well ingrained it is as our minds, and how like well it kind of delivered on the sorts of themes it kind of tried to deliver.
Yeah, and I will say this, for only 3 seasons, it ran 61 episodes in total. So 20 episodes for the first 2 seasons a piece, and then 21 for the last season. And even with all that, the fact that we got such a flushed out story in 3 seasons and 61 episodes, again, speaks volumes. And here we never even got an animated movie or anything like we were used to from around that time. Because during that time, it was pretty common for us to get animated or TV movies from these shows we would watch. So it's insane to me how much we got from just that one series.
Yeah, honestly, I feel like if any, show from that era, like not to bash on like other shows, because that really was a great time for TV in general. But Avatar: The Last Airbender, I feel like if there was any show that could have like been serviced by like a spin-off or like a movie, well, I mean, yeah, I did get The Legend of Korra, but what I mean is like a movie or something like that, like sort of like a paralogue. Honestly, that movie would that series would have been perfect for. I think there are a lot of things that could have been explored like a lot more in depth. Like obviously, I haven't seen the Legend of Korra,
Okay,
so
I
I
was just
don't.
about to ask that. How much of Korra
Yeah,
you've seen?
no, yeah. I was gonna say like honestly, I don't know that much about the Legend of Korra, but I feel like even before that, I feel like there could have been some things like that could have been explored. But I guess that's what the Legend of Korra is, if I'm not mistaken. Like, could you explain that?
Um. Okay, so to give you guys to give like quick overview, Legend of Korra is the direct sequel to Avatar: The Last Airbender. So it's the without giving too much away, it's the next Avatar after Aang, and so you don't get to see any of Aang's adult life for the most part. This is just like, hey, this is the new Avatar. So as you go through, it explores some different and interesting topics. Like you were saying, like it hadn't really, and honestly, to me as a viewer, it had not occurred to me as a thought until I actually saw them bring up that topic, and I was like, oh, you're right. You know what? That's a good thing to explore. But I will say this, um, and this is my in my own personal opinion. Obviously, opinions vary to change, but season one was really good in both character introduction and exploring a new angle of the series that you weren't really able to see before or hadn't really thought about. Season two is complete and utter garbage. Like there is no saving grace or way to defend season two whatsoever in honesty. Season three to me is like one of the best seasons, and it's really good. The only downside of it is that you see that it has to pick up the pieces and like how bad season two bombed. Like it's kind of I wouldn't say it's really clear, but you definitely feel the effects of like it has to make up for what season 2 did. And then after that, season 4 doesn't really escape that problem. And it's just not as good of a storyline. But I would personally say if I would say my two favorite seasons would definitely have to be season 1 and 3. After that, it's just like the other, again, 2 is really bad. 4 is just nowhere near the potential it could have been.
Damn. I mean, I guess like I said, I have no dog in this fight because like I said, I haven't seen the Legend of Korra. But do you mind, without getting too much into the details, what made season 2 and 4 really disappointing for you as a fan of the series?
Um, I can't really say without spoiling essentially what is built upon, but it's just there is with season 2 at least, and I would again I can't speak for everyone, but it seems to be a very popular consensus amongst the fandom that they seem to strip some character development from characters, or they just completely remove some characters altogether. And then you also see that like what should have been a slow burn story kind of just gets rushed and thrown all together at once. And from there it's kind of it's just in terms of pacing and the quality you expect from the rest of the Avatar series, it's just not there. And for me, I definitely believe that Korra is not as good as the original. But again, that's my own personal opinion. The original holds a special place in my heart, and Korra was good. I will give it that. If I had to give them a scale comparison, Avatar: The Last Airbender was 9.5 out of 10. Korra is about a 7.2 out of 10 for me.
Dang. I mean, I can kind of understand your frustration because there was a show that I was really into that was on Netflix. And I think you watched it as well. I'm not sure if you finished it, but have you finished Voltron?
Sort of. So I got out of Voltron for a good portion of the seasons, and then I kind of got I wouldn't say dragged back in, more like kind of jumped back in when our friends were watching it. But like I never really cared enough because I didn't care for the characters as much as I wanted to, at least through the first. I think I watched through the first 3 seasons, and I still never felt like I needed to care for any characters.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I really enjoyed the characters. Obviously, there were some characters that I feel like got a lot more, flack than they should have. I'm not like one of those people who like, email like the writers and be like, "Oh no, you need to give this character like more, development or whatever." I hate those kinds of people, to be
Yeah,
honest.
yeah.
But yeah, no, there were some like there are some issues in the development of the story and like just the narrative in general that like, I feel like could have been avoided. And honestly, I feel like I don't know how far you've gotten into it, but honestly, there's a big portion of the story, especially towards the end, that I feel like was kind of unnecessary.
Yeah, I
Like
heard about that. Again, I never watched or finished the series because again, I never cared enough, but I came back in, I think the second to last season is what I want to say. And
yeah, season
then
7. Oh, sorry.
maybe I honestly don't remember. It's been a bit. And then I watched like most of it with you with like all of our friends back at school. And then when I heard about season 8, like it was just apparently so bad and like destroyed so many character developments and story arcs together that I was just like, well, okay then. I guess it's best I didn't get involved with this series that much.
Yeah, honestly, like, I mean, honestly, for me personally, like, you can tell, like, it's still a very beautiful and good-looking show. I think that's one of the biggest, like, things, like, for me is, like, it really was, like, a really well-drawn, just animated show. It's a really a beautiful, like, it's just to look at it, honestly, it's great.
Oh
I
yeah, no,
mean,
animation was great. Like I'm not going to take that away. Storytelling though, I guess for people it just was not good.
yeah, no, like, I can never take away from the quality of, the settings and, the characters, designs, and stuff like that. I mean, honestly, that's all that was great. But I mean, in terms of the story, like, without getting into like spoiler territory, there's an event that happens, in the show that realistically speaking, like everything that led up to that event happening, and when it did happen, that really should have been the end of the show. And obviously, since it happened in the last season episode of the season, I thought to myself, okay, this is obviously gonna be like there's gonna be a new season for this, whatever, fine. Maybe they'll like there'll be like a little epilogue about like what happens after and whatever. But after the main event that should have kind of ended the series, there's two more. Like I think I can't remember if it was season 5 that it happened or season 6, but there's 2 or 3 more seasons of just like aimless like nothingness really happening. I mean, there is like a plot, there is like a story to go along with it. Like you feel the effects of this event happening, and there's like sort of like discord between Voltron and and their members and the rest of like the alliance of the galaxy and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I feel like much of it is like kind of contrived. It's kind of generated just to be like just for the sake of creating controversy rather as opposed to like actually like naturally rising and being an actual like sort of this sense of source of discord. And so like for me personally, I really didn't like that. And honestly, I mean, there are a few shining moments. There was specifically a moment at the very end of the show which I thought was really nice, and I'm glad that they included in it. They included it. Sorry, but overall, I feel like most of the things after season 5, if I'm remembering correctly, just didn't need to be in the show. Honestly, so yeah, that's my own
Really?
gripe.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's incredible to me, honestly. But like to have that big of a turn. Um, I don't know. Like, I guess I just never got into Voltron, and I'm trying to remember. I don't remember if it was Voltron or who, but I remember some old like for the writers of Teen Titans, I believe were either working on Voltron or they were working on another series. Or maybe I honestly can't remember, so I'm not gonna try and dig too much. I don't have the time to dig through that right now. But like it was just incredible to me how much of a turn the fan base had against it, I would say, with especially how the ending was. Because I remember when I saw it first come out, people were super hyped, were right behind the series and everything. And it is now it's completely like they hate the ending of it and almost are against the series. And this is me not being involved with the fandom in any way. This is only off of observation.
Yeah, no, yeah, kind of to add on to that, like, I mean, I personally don't interact with that much with other people that are involved with Voltron, even our friends, because like we just don't talk about that kind of stuff, to be honest. But
Yeah.
like, yeah, honestly, like the general sentiment I got, and I actually looked up a few hashtags and like keywords on Twitter for this kind of stuff, and yeah, honestly, a lot of people were not that happy with how the series turned out. I mean, like, a lot of the great things that made it so amazing, especially in the beginning, were still kind of present. I mean, I didn't dislike the characters they introduced. Like a lot of them, they were good, they were personable, like, and honestly, I mean, they were good, they were fine characters, but like, there was no good reason for them to be there, if that makes sense. So, I mean, honestly, I feel like we could spend all day talking about things that didn't go right in the shows we liked and stuff like that. And honestly, Teen Titans is like, wow. You mentioned Teen Titans, I could
Yeah.
talk about them.
Yeah, that's another show. Well, we'll definitely save that for another
Yeah,
episode. But I think today is a good here is a good point to wrap up for today. So if you
yeah,
stuck around this long, thank you so much for sticking around and listening. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the episode, and we will be back whenever we feel like it. Because remember, this is unscheduled.
yeah. Hopefully, you guys will tune in next time. Thanks.
All right, have a good one, everyone. Bye.